Hello, and welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today's May 27th, and today we're doing robot and nonsense.
And space.
Yeah, space.
The robot section has been usurped by space because there's so much space news these days.
Robots in space.
Lots of exciting things. We keep launching new things into space, and now that we're doing that, we can do cool new things with them.
2 military satellites just communicated with each other using space lasers. How disappointed is Elon Musk? Because he always said that the Starlink satellites were going to communicate with each other using lasers soon.
They do not. Did he go ahead and equip them with lasers?
I believe it's something he said on Twitter. So, who knows?
Who knows if it's actually true, yeah.
Well, the military did it first. They transmitted, I think, what was it, 200 gigabits of data.
I hope it was a cat pic.
Took 40 minutes. So
not bad.
Not super high bandwidth, but they don't really need to a lot of data doesn't need to be passed around the satellite. It's not like they're file sharing. But that's cool. It's cool, but it probably is going to be bad when they start to hunt us from the sky and send out the killer drones.
I wonder if any of those photons will make it somewhere else in about 1 billion years, and they're just like, what are all these cat pictures?
No, they're going to say...
They're only like scraps of cat pictures. It's really confusing.
They're going to say, this is adorable. We must I'll have an alliance with these people. Because these cats, we need them in our world to eat. And, some of our old school space hits continue to pay off. And oh boy, is this one of the OGs, still going strong.
Engineers investigating NASA's Voyager 1 telemetry data. In order for us to get telemetry data from Voyager 1, it has to be pointed exactly precisely at Earth. And we ask it what the coordinates are for pointing exactly precisely at Earth, and it's giving us some nonsensical answers. But there's the paradox of we're receiving the data, which physically indicates it's still pointing at Earth. But the data that it's giving us for where it thinks Earth is pointed doesn't make any sense.
And that is almost surely aliens.
Buy Bitcoin, panic.
And we do have some robots on Mars, and they are overachievers, to say the least.
NASA's Mars helicopter was supposed to fly 5 times. It's flown 28 times.
Do you think the first time when they hit number 6, they were like, let's just see if it does it. And then they kept doing it, and it keeps going up.
Well, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are entering into the very dusty, very cold, negative 100 degrees Fahrenheit Martian winter, and they're afraid this little guy is not going to be able to recharge his batteries because of the diffusion for his solar panels. So
Rip little Mars helicopter.
Poor guy.
He made 28, and that's amazing, but he might never make 30. And we had the big UFO data thing. I think that happened while we were streaming.
We teased it during the live stream. It was the next day.
They revealed pretty much nothing.
As usual.
As most people predicted. But they say that they're committed.
U.S. officials say that the Pentagon is committed to understanding UFO origins. This is Reuters. Basically, the people are going on record now as saying, they're real, they're unexplainable, we're looking into it.
They're not ours, and they're not anything we've seen from anybody else, but we don't know what they are. That's the answer that we have, and we've had for years, so it's nothing new.
Kind of disappointing.
You think maybe there is some sort of intergalactic federation, and they look at us and they're like, well, these guys would be backwater if we admitted them. Like, if we showed up, would it actually unite all of the different countries of the planet? Would we have, some sort of planetary organization in order to do things to participate in a larger galactic whatever? And they're probably saying, no, don't think that'll happen.
And idiots.
We can't actually make contact until they have free speech on Twitter.
That's what they're waiting for.
The level of technology they have, they probably know what we're thinking, and they know, and so it's just, there would be no deceiving them. And where everybody that would be put in charge of talking to them would immediately go is, can we get weapons? Can we kill all the other people that are not like us?
And they would lie.
Yeah, and it's just, but they would have the technology to see through that immediately, so the only winning move is not to play. Bold move, Galactic Federation.
They would come
assuming that they're egalitarian.
They would come and they'd be like, do you need help putting some of your leaders in the ground? Because we know that's what you do when they get that age. I don't understand why they're leading. And one thing that we're sure about when it comes to the robots, this is the robot section, and one thing we know with absolute certainty is that robots are extremely racist.
Extremely.
And we've always wondered, how can robots be racist when they're not even programmed to tell the difference? Turns out they don't need to be programmed. They are so inherently racist.
MIT and Harvard scientists find that AI can recognize race from X-rays, and nobody knows how. I'm going to give you a preview of our follow-up story. This is not the first time something like this has happened, probably the first time with X-rays, but the last time this happened, the thing was detecting people that had been malnourished as children. And so the AI learned to figure out if you had enough food while you were growing up or if you were poor while growing up, which was really interesting, but not what the people claimed. In this case, it might be something like, was the X-ray machine a really good one or was it a really cheap one? Because certain races might tend to use the really cheap X-ray machines and certain races might tend to use the really good X-ray machines, and the pattern might look different.
I could totally see our leaders being like, well, we were kind of just using race as a proxy for that anyway. This is better. Yeah, we've always hated the poor. It's not about race. Then we can all live in harmony, except for the poors.
It turns out that when your X-ray looks like this, it's from a Soviet era machine.
That's from a rural hospital.
Yeah, it's like, why is the incidence of cancer higher in the poor? Well, the radiation leakage.
Can you imagine the signaling if we learned that and people would just go and get X-rays just so they could signal that their X-ray was poor? Well, DeepMind AI has done some amazing things. And at first, it took them a really long time. I think was Go the first thing they did?
Yes.
They beat Go for the game Go first. But then it was just kind of like that broke the dam. And I was like, every game we put this on, it destroys it. It destroys real players. They got League of Legends, chess, checkers, you name it. DeepMind can do it. And now they're saying it's so good, give it whatever you want, it will destroy you.
The Independent is reporting the game is over. Google's DeepMind says that it is on the verge of achieving human-level AI. It's Gato AI, or Gato?
Gato is Spanish for cat.
Generalist. It's a generalist agent that can carry out a huge range of complex tasks. What they're doing here is kind of cheating. It's not artificial general intelligence in any sense that we've defined it up till now. What it is it's a collection of specialized agents for doing specific things, but there's so many of them that basically if you get a large enough sample of people, it's like, hey, can you write some poetry for me? Hey, can you stack some blocks? Hey, can you play Go? Hey, can you do this? It's had enough experience now with all of those things that it can convincingly do those things.
Well, it's funny though, because in the article, the guy who actually worked on it, they asked him like, "Oh, could it pass like a Turing test?" And he's like, "Oh no."
Yeah, he said it was
No,
a
that's
long
not
way
gonna
away from
happen.
that. And yet
Yeah.
he says it will be general AI, but it won't pass a Turing test.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he says just you have to scale it. So I assume if you put like a quantum computer with that, you might get something resembling that.
Yeah, what he means is if you could feed it a data set of 1 million people taking a Turing test, then it would pass a Turing test. But it's not going to organically pass a Turing test without having
Which
been.
is not general intelligence.
No.
Yeah.
But it could be used for general tasks.
The headline was maybe a little like
Well,
not clickbait, but
You're saying there's clickbait? I don't believe that.
Well, no, I get what he's saying because it could totally be used for general tasks. You could this might actually revolutionize certain types of manufacturing because you could basically just set up some generic robots and show them how to do tedious things, and then the robots would continue to do the tedious things.
But that's not general intelligence for artificial. I mean, that's a very clearly defined thing, and that's not it.
Yeah, it's general. It's a larger general intelligence, but it's still not universally general.
It's like when they use for food products light LITE. It doesn't actually mean anything.
This does not contain mayo.
So you can put whatever you want
I
on.
thought we were gonna say like full self-driving. That was what.
Well,
Yeah.
it's maybe a
Yeah.
better example.
It's good, but it's not that good.
Yeah, full self-driving is great until you encounter a truly unique situation, and then the AI is just like, I'm out.
And you know where I bet you get a lot of truly unique situations when it comes to robots? When they're trying to deliver food.
Uber Eats pilots autonomous delivery with Serve Robotics
And Motional.
and Motional.
They're doing two different things here. One of them is a delivery robot like we've seen driving around on the ground, the little ones on campuses. The other one is the self-driving cars that come, and I guess you go out and get it yourself. I kind of like that scenario.
You can't tip them, unfortunately. you will be reimbursed if you try to tip the robots.
That makes sense. Although I'm sure the kitchen staff is like, great.
No, fantastic. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
I'm really looking for some franchise like White Castle to adopt drone delivery, because I think that would take off. Like if you could dispatch a thing and it just
But if Amazon can't do it, you think White Castle's going to do it?
yeah, because it's a much smaller problem. It's like you have these 8 things on the menu,
and they're set in a certain size. You
Right.
don't have to worry about.
But you have a
weights
weight
and-
limit.
Yeah, you definitely. If you ordered like 20 things from White Castle, that's going to be like 20 drones buzzing your house.
Maybe there's a drone menu where it's like, you get something from this menu and you don't modify it.
Or remember when Amazon used to do that thing where they tried to use the machine learning to actually pack the box perfectly for the pantry? That would be like your drone thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how many sliders can you smash into this little container that we got?
It's just smashing them in. The bread's everywhere.
That'd be another job for Flippy. Flippy's just got like a square hand and he's
Smash.
well, here's this. I don't know. Is this the story of the week?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It's
It's
not
a nonsense story.
It's
kind
not
of.
a tech story, but it is certainly overwhelming the headlines right now because everybody is like, "Oh God, we can't do this again. Not again."
The Centers for Disease Control expressed concern about the possibility of undetected monkeypox spreading in the United Kingdom.
But it's not just the UK anymore. This has been detected in Massachusetts in the US. It's been detected in Australia, in Italy. Quite a few countries where typically monkeypox is not found.
Unfortunately, statnews.com does not have the ubiquitous image of the hand with pustules all over.
Oh, yeah.
We just want you to be scared. We don't actually want to give you any useful or actionable details.
Yeah, there's literally, they don't know anything just yet. By the time this comes out, you may know a little more than we do. Hopefully it's good news
Or you might be dead.
of monkeypox. Yeah.
And if you were in South Korea, then we all know that South Korea has this crazy obsession with plastic surgery. And one of my favorite things about South Korea is that it's so cultural that it is considered completely taboo to ask someone if they've had plastic surgery. I would be so tempted.
Yeah.
But
Engagement
I would
challenge?
just assume so.
here's the thing about it. They love plastic surgery so much, but they don't have very many doctors. Not a lot of people go into the medical profession. They have like one per 100 fewer than most of the Western world. So what do?
South Korea turns to surveillance as ghost surgeries shake faith in hospitals. What's a ghost surgery? It's when your surgeon leaves the room and says, my assistant can handle it. It's fine.
Ugh.
I also kind of feel a little shaky about that.
So it brings up a crazy argument. Obviously, all the doctors are on the side of, no, we can never do that. But some people are saying cameras in operating theaters.
I think that's already the case in a lot of places.
Not in the U.S.
They just don't talk about it.
They won't put them in the actual operating room.
Oh, it's just around it and everywhere else.
Right, like the entrances and all that stuff. But once you're in there, of course, a lot of that is patient anonymity as well.
Confidentiality,
Yeah.
I think that's probably hospital liability way more than patient.
But would you waive it?
Yeah,
I think I would too.
I definitely would.
Although, I mean, that's a kind of a nude that could get out, right? They do try to
While
cover
your like
you up.
stomach's open.
Yeah. But it's crazy. I mean, so some people have died in South Korea from this. There was one woman, her son died. He was getting a jawline surgery. And she's been trying to, like bring attention to it and nobody cares.
It's taboo to talk about the failures.
I guess so.
Wish this headline was around when we were kids.
Yeah, the greatest thing about this headline is that we were told over and over and over the phrase that everybody went to. I don't know how all the parents got together on this one phrase, but it was, it'll rot your brain.
Yes.
And here we are. My brain is probably pretty rotted, but I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think probably the corn syrup had more to do with it than that.
Playing video games has an unexpected effect on kids' IQ, say new study. They have better, the plastic cognition, better problem-solving ability, and better like thinking on their feet.
But mildly better.
Yeah,
But
not 10 points better.
It wasn't that it made you that much smarter. It's that it had no negative impact. But also, browsing social media and watching TV, also no negative impact, but also no small positive impact.
My mom didn't have that line about rotting your brain out.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, by that, see, they were video games had already sort of established themselves. You got to remember,
Yeah,
the
when I was
Nintendo
a kid.
Entertainment System came out while we were kids,
Yeah.
and that changed everything.
And video game stuff was much more taboo than computer stuff, even though you could use the computer to play video games.
Well, they didn't really understand the computers at all. They understood the Nintendo.
I was like, $200 for a video game system, that's not acceptable. $200 for a modem? Well, you can probably make that work.
My parents did not understand the Voodoo 2. They're like, why do you need this? And that was back in the day where it was just in the clear container and you just saw the card in there. And they're like, what is that?
It makes the computer go
I
faster.
need it.
Mom.
Here's a shocking story. Do you guys remember when Texas, their power grid failed when it was too cold?
Yep.
Now, I imagine they probably went into emergency mode and they're like, we have to make sure this never happens again.
The cost of electricity was so high and so much money was wasted there. Had that money been put into the infrastructure, their capacity would have been at least 10% higher.
But it seems that instead of doing that, they said, well, too cold, that won't be a problem during the summer. And somehow they didn't think about the inverse at all.
Texans are asked to turn their thermostats up after sweltering heat knocks 6 power plants offline.
78 degrees is what you're supposed to have it up to right now.
What am I, an animal?
So what?
Well, I guess by the time what you were supposed to have.
What authority has Congress delegated here? Because it seems like this is also some kind of fraud.
Well, remember we learned that they have their own power grid and it is very, very captured.
How is this not fraud though? Like you would expect the utility company to be able to provide utilities in a reasonable manner, and this is clearly unreasonable if other places aren't having problems.
Yeah,
Oh, I
well,
think that's coming too, actually. Michigan is talking about having to do this later in the summer.
Enron, PG&E, what's the New Jersey one? I mean, we have a long
Edison.
history of these companies just doing whatever they
There was
want.
that huge blackout, I think it was in 2003, that hit New York and parts of Canada
It's
because
fu-
of one tree limb.
It's funny. A lot of the discovery, a lot of the lawsuits and stuff of Con Ed is really hilarious because there's a lot of stuff in the public record from their just incredible corruption. So maybe that would be handy in the case of Texas.
And a lot of people, they're like, oh, hey, we need to turn the internet into a utility. You think that's going to fix it?
I wish it would. Though now I'm just looking at solar panels like maybe I should just do this because who knows if the grid's going to be reliable anymore.
Imagine how valuable your house would be if all of a sudden you had a little bit of power and nobody else did.
I know.
And then you'd be killed in a home invasion. Somebody could charge their phone.
You got to make your house look like it doesn't have power.
Well,
easily.
that's
How do you
the
hide?
benefit of solar panels. Like, even though they're visible, if you put them out front, like they don't make noise like a generator would.
Well, I love animal stories and the nonsense part of the Level 1 news. This one is, it's adorable, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, they're sort of, clubbing their way into extinction here, aren't they?
Yeah.
Accidental discovery that scallops love disco lights leads to new fishing technique. Disco Inferno.
Oh.
Well, it's not quite an inferno. Maybe disco slaughter.
Are they going to have to regulate this?
I don't know. Scallops, I remember, I don't remember, but I've read that lobsters, before we figured out the right way to cook them, were just everywhere. Like you couldn't walk down a beach without kicking lobsters out of the way.
Yeah.
So how long before the poor scallops, now that we know how to kill them in mass, we start to run out of them?
Well, this because the scallops come to you. This is also easier on the habitats for everything else.
Yeah, right now to get scallops, we dredge,
Yeah.
which is not good because it kills everything else. So what they did, they figured out scallops. Also, here's a learning experience for scallops, or a learning moment. They have 200 eyes,
Oh,
and they're all around the rim of their little shell there.
that's 198 too many.
And they have incredible eyesight, and they believe that most of their eyesight is based on light versus dark. So being in there in that little disco crab pot, they can see amazingly well
Huh.
until they pulled up and killed.
Until they're never seen again. Yeah.
So interesting. Poor little guys. They're having such a good time, partying it up, talking to some girls, and then all of a sudden the pot starts going up.
I didn't know this discotheque moved.
Now, did you get the impression this was in China only?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they wouldn't sell this anywhere, though, and it is astonishing. However, Krista, you're a big hide from the sun person.
Yes.
Would you ever consider an umbrella for that?
For hiking, like if I was doing a road walk, I would. For just everyday life, no.
What about an umbrella that was only good for the sun and not actual liquids?
I'd probably not love that either. Adidas Gucci selling $1,300 umbrella that isn't waterproof.
Oh, I forgot to mention, would you pay $1,300?
Absolutely not. No.
It seems like I could fix this with a garbage bag
I bet it's not even ultralight.
and some tape.
Yeah, but you could also make your own and save $1,295.
Yeah, I became a believer in the poncho after trying to look for anti-rain technology while bicycling to class.
Yeah,
We
ponchos are
figured
great.
that out, although that can get caught up in your chain.
Yeah.
So that's Gucci and Adidas, and I can't imagine. Like, this is one of those products where I think that if anybody buys that, we should just go kill them.
You want to kill the Gucci gang?
Here's your customer list. All right, we've got a list to work from. Let's get started.
And Call of Duty Warzone continues to be hot among gamers, I guess. They've just added some new stuff. It sounds really cool. I'd like to actually see this, that King Kong and Godzilla fight in the map and you can be all in among all that. That sounds fun.
I was sure that this was, Warzone XP farm discovered in King Kong's nether regions. Yeah, I don't know.
Listicles.
I thought this was like Manscaped was sponsoring this.
Well, they missed the chance, didn't
Yeah.
They really missed the boat.
The
here.
headline doesn't really convey what's happening very well.
But turns out you can fly your helicopter in there.
they? I don't think you actually need to. I don't know if his testicles are even represented graphically. You get in the general area and you get close enough for the helicopter blade to touch his legs, his thighs. And I guess maybe that's registering damage against him, which gives you XP. I don't really understand that. Any Warzone players out there who've done this? Anybody who's been to Kong's scrotum who can tell us?
Demonetized.
Now, if they do have genitalia on Kong, did they put any genitalia on Godzilla? Because in some storylines, I think Godzilla's a girl. Godzilla did lay an egg once.
Okay.
We've done this story several times because this guy keeps getting back in the news because, surprise, surprise, every year it's a new milestone. This is a big one. However, they did reveal it's not 100%.
Yeah. Wisconsin man celebrates eating McDonald's Big Mac every day for 50 years. Every day except 8.
What do you think happened those 8 days? I'm so
He got COVID.
confused.
Oh, I see.
No! What have you done? What have you done? No!
Do you think the 8 days came
Oh, look at
late
that
in the
haircut.
cycle or early in the cycle?
Probably spread out.
If you had a lineup of people in front of me and you're like, one of these guys eats a Big Mac every day, I'd pick the guy with the bowl cut every time.
Haircut.
And a turtleneck, bless his heart.
Now, he says that, I don't think that's a turtleneck. I think that's a collar with a tie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't tell from here.
He says, yeah, I know a lot of people say this is bad for me, but I'm very active. And so this doesn't affect me at all.
I'm sure
Probably does.
it's affecting him some.
Yeah.
There's a guy on YouTube who's like one of these popular bodybuilder guys, but he's an older guy. So he's old. He's got a gray beard, but he's just ripped to shreds. And he describes how while he was trying to gain weight, working out, he just ate McDonald's every day like that too. And even though he had almost 0% body fat, he still had the heart attack.
Yeah. A lot of sludge in those burgers.
A lot of bad stuff. Yeah. Now, you could be, like I said, we should just go and find who buys those umbrellas and kill them.
Balenciaga.
Balenciaga.
How do you know that, Chris?
I'm kind of low-key into couture stuff a little bit,
Oh, really?
but not enough to actually buy it, but I like watching some of the runway shows.
Well, some of the the destroyed shoes. I'm looking for the destroyed shoes on the runway.
Like, this is absurd.
I actually have a pair of these that I use to cut grass.
You should sell them. Just put Balenciaga
Put them
on
in
it.
the Level 1 store for $100,000.
They're New Balance. They used to be gray, but now they're green.
The dad sneaker.
A lot of branding on these guys.
We'll spray
never
paint Level
understood that.
1 on the side. That's fine.
So there's kind of a thing, I think, with like couture brands where they'll have the real couture stuff where it's custom made and like it's actually a piece of art, and then there's the low couture stuff which is for people who just want the name. This is probably for the people who just want the name.
Now, look at this one here. I don't think that would stay on your foot, right?
It's about the fashion.
There's no structural integrity there.
I don't get it.
It's making me think I could get some more miles out of my shoes before I retire them.
Yeah. They're just going into the dump and then like writing Balenciaga on the side, and then they
Here it is without the destruction. It doesn't strike me as anything special there either.
It looks like a Converse. This is just a Converse without the patch on it.
God, look at this jacket. It's $4,000.
If I had to buy something from a designer label, I'd buy something from Iris Van Herpen. Great designer.
Engagement challenge.
Great designer.
Try to find something
She
like this.
3D prints part of her dresses. It's actually really cool.
Try to find something crazy like this that she's done so we can burst
Make fun of
Christy's
her.
bubble.
Yeah.
Well, we talk a lot about, government overreach and the horrible dystopian world that we live in. Asset forfeiture is a big part of that. Asset forfeiture is kind of like, once someone explains it to you and tells you specific examples, you think to yourself,
That's not right.
what country am I living in? What is this? Is this Russia? Is this China? Because it sure seems like it.
Highland Park seized their building. The price to get it back was 2 new police cars. It's policing for profit, says an attorney representing the building's owners.
So, Michigan passed recreational marijuana. That means that you can get some sort of license to grow the stuff. They did. They got a lot of licenses. They were going to grow a lot of marijuana. They got themselves a nice building. They set it all up. And the police came and they're like, we think you're growing weed in here. And they said, yeah, right. Here's all the paperwork. And they said, nope, we're shutting it down. We're taking the building. And so these people started the process of like, oh, it's all legal. We can do this. And then they were told outside of the prosecutor, the mayor himself and the cops came to them and they were like, listen, you could get this building back, but we need new police cars. And that's going to be $70,000. Here's the dealership that we want them from. Go get them.
Whoever said that, do you think they're like ready to punch themselves in the face?
No,
they
because
got caught.
it's Detroit and it's just rotten to the core.
Super bad.
You know what? I'm ashamed to say that I didn't even think about the concept, but Asian elephants versus African elephants, I never made the distinction.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember.
But
We
now
talked
that
about
I know that there's Asian elephants, that's what this young man is. He is Asian and he lives in the Bronx Zoo for now.
New York High Court considers whether a Bronx Zoo elephant is a person.
Is this kind of like the thing in the UK where they said octopi were
Kind of.
Almost
Intelligent.
exactly like that.
Yeah.
Because this elephant, whose name is Happy, named after the dwarf, is they passed the mirror test. They put the X on its head, put it in front of a mirror, and all of a sudden that big trunk was like, what is this? And so they assume that if you know that much about yourself, living in a 1-acre prison might be sad.
Yeah.
I don't like zoos at all. I'd say no more zoos. Why? Why we got to make the animals suffer for our entertainment?
We can do it all in the metaverse now.
We should turn prisons into zoos. Just let people go and look at prisons. It's so much more fascinating.
We could do, well, on the note of rehabilitation, maybe that's how you do your zoos. You get animals that need to be rehabilitated or can't be rehabilitated, and that's what your zoo animals are.
There's probably an elephant out there that's like, I'm good with the 1 acre. You're feeding me. I don't have to think about things. Let's do it.
That's Cricket.
Well, you
That's
gotta-
my cat.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to ask yourself how many people would take that deal.
Yeah.
A lot of people would take that deal, for sure.
And my cat, so like Rue wants to get out at every opportunity, so she has to have a leash on all the time. But I can like leave the door wide open and Cricket doesn't care. Cricket's like, I've been out there. I don't want to be back out there.
You know who would be a lot better off if she had just accepted that fate? Amber Heard. This is absolute insanity, and I don't believe it at all. Even though they did seem to do some sort of scientific rigor in this study, I still don't believe it.
Hip-hop music makes cheese taste better, study says. They're looking to repeat the study, but they actually tried like 20 different kinds of music and a control cheese that didn't have any music. And
Control cheese.
they also tried just various different kinds of sounds that weren't music. But apparently the hip-hop music was made the cheese taste the best.
Maybe the cheese counter guy was trying to tell me that when I freaked out that time and ran away.
According to the experiment, the different kinds of music resulted in cheeses that smelled different and had a different texture and fermented at different rates, slightly, somewhat. I mean, in the picture, they all look very similar, but,
Did they do this on regular people or was it on like cheese connoisseurs?
No, they had
a cheese sommelier.
Yeah.
they had like a panel, right? Here's the songs: Stairway to Heaven, Mozart's Magic Flute, UV Vibril. I don't know that one.
is-
Do you? Monolith by Yellow, no. And Tribe Called Quest. Tribe Called Quest was the best cheese. A group of food professionals participated in blind taste tests. Now, Wendell, you can't enjoy music. Like, you don't have that ability. What if all these cheeses tasted the same to you?
We should write them a letter and see if they'll send us some cheese.
And you should write them a letter that they should do a Weird Al cheese, right?
Oh, yeah. That
What
would
if
be the
you-
ultimate test.
What if you ate the Weird Al cheese and then everything was just hilarious for a while,
I like all forms of cheese.
but not music?
Well, it doesn't. I just don't get it.
Well, grocery delivery, I'm finding it like they mark those prices up so much, and that hurts my feelings because it is super
And
convenient.
they're playing games with the containers. It's like, oh, the peanut butter's in a Klein bottle this week.
Yeah, and the shoppers don't even try. If something is not like eye level on the shelf, they're just like, oh, they don't have it. I've gone to the store later in the day because I forgot something and had to go, and then they had it. It's just
They probably
lies.
have like a gazillion orders, so I can almost
Yeah.
forgive that, but
But then just don't do it, right?
yeah.
But I have not had this problem so far.
Aurora mom finds a crack pipe in the grocery delivery. I was like, how bad can this really be? It was a very well-worn crack pipe. Someone is going to miss it a lot.
Not a brand new one. That was my grandfather's crack pipe.
Do you think, like, do you hang on to a crack pipe? Is that like a?
No.
I think you probably ditch the crack pipe every
Yeah.
time,
My
right?
papa lived to be 40 years old. It's an heirloom.
I bet if you did keep a crack pipe, I bet it would still be a very short amount of time that one would ever like, because then you would die, right?
Right.
Like, oh, well, he kept that crack pipe for 3 years.
Walmart corporate was also real interested in this, so
Also, I don't know if they tested it for crack. I mean, they could have been using it to smoke something else, right?
I guess. I don't know a whole lot about how drugs work, to be honest.
I think crack pipes, the way I understand it, is you have like a little bit of a filter that you put in there, and then the rock goes in.
Do you melt it?
monetize.
Yeah, we already were demonetized
It
with the
doesn't,
other, so.
no, Chris, that doesn't melt, it burns.
Oh.
See, that's the thing about crack. Cocaine, let's just. Cocaine has a salt in it that prevents it from burning, and by turning it into crack, you remove that or nullify that salt so that you can then burn it and get immediate, but it's a short high. I don't think it's a good idea. I think I would rather just give me the equivalent of cocaine. Even though I've never done cocaine, that sounds like a better time.
Well, you're susceptible to that. As an Appalachian, you have to be careful.
Oh yeah, according to the Sacklers.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. But that's not an opiate.
Well, they said it was just naturally susceptible to addiction.
Yeah, just anything, really.
Yeah, people say that about a lot of the indigenous cultures as well. Alcohol. They say that they have like a genetic predisposition for
It
that.
has nothing to do with the horrors that they've lived through. just genetic.
So many horrors.
Well, we've seen a lot of people try to run from the cops and try to do creative things to avoid them. I think this is the first time I've ever seen this particular tactic.
Florida woman accused of crashing into multiple cars and throwing a fake snake to evade a traffic stop. She's in custody. 4 people had to be sent to the hospital.
Oh, that's less funny.
Looks like she might have gotten a little bruise there on her face too, because they were not too happy about having to chase her and then get the fake snake thrown on them. Now here's the question. Did the fake snake, did that happen to be in the car, or did she put that in there thinking, if
She
the
pulled
cop
it out of her
messes
glove
with me-
box. Yeah.
Was that an emergency fake snake in case you need to flee from a
She
cop?
had some pocket sand too, but it fell out of her pocket when she was running.
It was the carjacking snake. See, she put it in there thinking she was going to be carjacked. But
Krista, you've talked a lot about restricting any children that you might have, God forbid, from accessing a mobile device.
Ideally, yes.
And that is seeming more and more like a really good policy because we see stories like this.
31 McDonald's cheeseburgers delivered to shocked Texas mom. Her toddler ordered them.
that's not a terribly expensive lesson to learn.
Yeah, there are worse things. I love the picture. I saw a few pictures of this where like the kid was just sitting on a mountain of burgers.
So he bought, how many was it?
It's like 30.
31. I think
Yeah.
it was $70 worth of burgers, and he ate half of one.
That's like peak toddler.
I mean, how much?
I need a pickle now, and you
How
give him a
many
pickle, and they
burgers?
just throw it away.
How many burgers can a toddler really eat? And so a lot of people replying to her post talked about other things. One woman's kid ordered a bunch of iPhones One of them did DoorDash.
Yeah.
NBA League Pass.
Yeah, just a few burgers. She made it out okay. She's fine. 1,000 iPhones, that would be a little bit more problematic.
That's pretty impressive for a kid, though, don't you think?
Yeah.
That shows how, like, when they're growing up with that stuff,
It's
how
ubiquitous, yeah.
inherent it is in their world. Amazing. Remember Romeo the Frog?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about Romeo the Frog. Also, Alex Jones. It's right again.
He's struggling a bit. Frogs keep mating with the wrong things, according to this Atlantic article, and they've got a helpful picture.
Yeah, girl. You're big, but I love you.
Well, the frogs have no problem around my neighborhood. They are all over the place.
They have a name for it. I can't remember what it was. There's a special word for frog mating.
Is there?
But it turns out this is pretty common. And one of the most disturbing parts of it is that very commonly they will mate with corpses.
Oh.
And it turns out if it's a fresh corpse, that can actually still work because the active mating will cause the eggs to come out. They had at least one example in the wild of necrophilia resulting in viable offspring.
Well, if we weren't demonetized for the cocaine talk and then the pandemic talk, that word just got it.
So they're trying to figure out how could, if the frogs are this dumb, could eventually this just wipe them out because they can't get it? Oh.
I have tons of frogs around my area, so I'm not too concerned about this one.
They know. They just don't care.
And this one is from the UK. And of course, inflation crushing everyone worldwide. It's not just the United States, although I think we are one of the worst, right?
I don't think so.
We're getting it pretty bad. And a lot of people are saying, hey, you know, that the socialism we have here, hey, bro, we're socialists. Where's the socialism? Let's get some more of it. And the excuse is not very good.
I can't raise benefits because of a complicated computer system. The Treasury says that the welfare payments involve complex and inefficient paper-based systems that are slowed further by aging, inflexible information technology.
So the system that controls this is older than I am.
It's not. You'd be surprised.
But during the pandemic, didn't they figure out pretty quickly how to just shower money onto all of us?
This
And
is in the UK.
Problem?
Yeah, it's the UK.
Yeah, but I mean, you know they can figure that out.
Yeah, they're just choosing not to.
Yeah.
And Thailand, which is historically one of the least tolerant places in the world for drugs. You do not want to smuggle drugs into or out of Thailand because if they catch you, oh boy, is that going to be bad for you. Well, it's a sea change, I suppose.
Thailand to give away 1 million free cannabis plants to households, the minister says. Don't worry, everything is still illegal, and you can't do anything with those, but maybe somebody might make a tea or soup from the plant.
Are they just trying to mellow their population out? They're like, you guys are getting real weird. Have a marijuana plant.
I don't know. You do have to have a medical license, I guess, a reason for this. But yeah, it's going to be like the Detroit thing, don't you think?
Yeah.
The local cops are going to be like, no, you can't do that. And we're going to steal your stuff. Our woke story of the week, as the madness spreads. Oh, Krista, if you do have kids, you're going to go through this and it's going to be so crazy. Because I don't think that you would tolerate it very well, but what are you going to do about it?
Oh, you want me to read it? Middle schoolers accused of sexual harassment for not using preferred pronouns, parents say.
So, the pronouns were they, them. I love how you guys just say nothing about this. The pronouns were they, them, and the kid said, Mom, that's wrong. That's plural. We learned that. Well, that's plural. That's wrong. And so, he has to be destroyed.
They didn't actually say if he was being punished or not.
Yeah, he's being, like, sued, right?
No. The parents are suing the school board. But he's not been punished or anything. They're quote unquote investigating, whatever that means.
I think they did, like, remove him from the classroom or something, right?
I don't think so.
He's under investigation.
But it doesn't, nowhere in the article, I don't think, did it say what that meant.
Yeah, but if you get a letter that your kid's being investigated for that,
Yeah.
come on. And our story, which is just hilarious because, and I personally, you know, I've never used OnlyFans, but it was
Patreon.com/Level1. Flip plane.
We will not DM you.
No, absolutely not. Sorry.
But it was always my understanding that sex workers, like one of the big advantages of that was that you didn't have to talk to them. Right?
Yeah.
Apparently that's been turned on its head.
OnlyFans' biggest stars are hiring professional sexters to reply to horny DMs.
Outsourcing.
It's the next logical step, I suppose.
Also, overwhelmingly, these are men. You're talking to men when you think you're talking to. They point out that some of these girls were so overwhelmed by the direct messages, they didn't have any time to put more nudes out. So they had to hire these. This is also against the terms of service.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did see a heartwarming thing on Reddit, which was it was a dude. A dude had an OnlyFans, or whatever the equivalent to that was, and
Only Dan's.
yeah, and and it was a TikTok, and it was only a few seconds long, and it's like, you know, he had like a suitcase of money, and like he kicked a door down, and then went into his sister's room, and he's like, "This is for you to pay off your student loans." And she was like, "What? What are you doing?" And then
Wait. So you're saying that was the money he got from?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last 3 seconds of the clip is their mom yelling at him really, really loud at the top of her lungs.
Is that staged?
I don't know.
It's a TikTok.
Maybe.
I remember reading a 4chan post where a guy claimed that what he would do is he would find OnlyFans girls who he found to be very attractive but didn't have any followers, and then he would subscribe to them, steal all of their content, repost it, but be very interactive with his subscribers. So he was taking girls who had no followers and turning them into massive followers under his own thing because he was all day sexting them and telling them how great they were.
That's sad.
The world is messed up.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing the world we live in.
Well,
But it's entertaining.
We'll see you next week.
Yep. Bye. Don't get monkeypox.